At Amastrides, every stride tells a story. But some stories begin not with words, but with silence. This is the story of a woman who carried generations in her womb, but buried her pain in her bones. Of a daughter who dared to ask why her mother never spoke. And of a truth so deep, it could only be found in tears. Brace yourself, because this isn't just a story, it's a wound. With a voice. Welcome to A Mother's Silence. The wind carried the scent of old firewood and memories as Mama Ifunanya sat outside her clay-walled home, the same one that had stood through storms and sorrows, as though refusing to collapse until her story was told. Her wrinkled hands folded gently over each other, silent witnesses to decades of sacrifice. She was known in the village as a quiet woman, strong but strange, always alone even in a crowd, with eyes that had seen too much. Her youngest daughter, Amastrides, was getting married in a week, and the compound buzzed with preparations. Chickens squawked, neighbors offered help, siblings arrived from cities with their children and egos. But beneath the surface of celebration lay tension, questions that had never been answered, wounds that never healed. Amastrides, the bold one, always asked, "Mama, where is Papa?" But each time she asked, silence answered. And in that silence, 1,000 unspoken stories wept. As dusk descended, Amastrides sat beside her mother, watching her peel garden eggs slowly. "Mama, I need to know who I am marrying for. I can't walk into a future built on shadows. Please tell me about Papa." Mama Ifunanya didn't speak, but her hands trembled just slightly. That night, unable to sleep, she walked barefoot to the small storeroom at the back of the compound. There she opened an old metal box. Inside were faded letters, a beaded necklace, and a torn black and white photograph of a young woman. Herself, and a man with a crooked smile. Amastrides stood behind her silently, the moonlight revealing her tear-filled eyes. Mama Ifunanya sighed, the kind of sigh that carried generations. And finally she spoke. "Your father was love, pain, and a lesson." She told Amastrides everything. How she met Chaik in 1978 at a village youth camp. How he made her laugh with his stubborn debates. How his voice turned her dreams into dancing fireflies. But Chaik was from a family that her own father despised. He was considered OSU, an outcast. Their love was forbidden. They ran away. For months, they lived in a small town, hiding from tradition, surviving on the edges of hope. She became pregnant. Just when they thought they could make it, tragedy struck. Chaik died in a road accident on his way to buy her medicine. He never returned. She buried him with the help of strangers, too afraid to return home. When she finally did, carrying a baby and a broken heart, her father disowned her. She built her life from rejection, brick by brick. She raised Amastrides and the children that followed, each from a different chapter of heartbreak. Men who came, made promises, and disappeared when life demanded truth. But she never begged, never explained. She simply endured. As Mama Ifunanya spoke, Amastrides wept, not just for the pain, but for the years they all misunderstood her. For the birthdays celebrated without laughter. For the silence mistaken as coldness. When Amastrides' wedding day came, the compound was alive. Music played, guests danced, and joy floated in the air. But the real moment came when Amastrides took the microphone during the toast and said, "Before I celebrate this union, I want to honor the woman who taught me strength, not with words, but with her life." She turned to her mother. "Mama, I now understand your silence. And I carry your strength into my marriage." The guests clapped. Some cried. And Mama Ifunanya, for the first time in years, smiled, a real smile. But later that evening, as the last guests left and the compound grew quiet again, she sat under the udala tree and whispered a prayer to Chaik. "I kept our love safe, kept our child strong. I lived, even when living hurt." She closed her eyes, and a single tear slipped down her cheek. It was not of sorrow but of peace. Because sometimes, a mother's silence is not emptiness. It is a song only love can understand. She never raised her voice. She raised children. Underscore. She never told her story. She lived it, through rejection, through heartbreak, through silence. Underscore. But now, her silence has spoken. To every mother whose voice was lost in the noise of duty. To every daughter still searching for the truth behind her mother's strength. This story is for you. Thank you for walking this emotional journey with us at Amastrides. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Because somewhere a mother is waiting to be heard. Amastrides. Every stride tells a story.